With that, we will leave the Friends Historical Library and the McCabe Building and proceed to Magill Walk. It's named for Edward H. Magill, Swarthmore's second president, who began his term in 1871 and was responsible for the planting of these trees. As a child in Solbury, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, Magill heard stories of slavery from the hired men who worked on the Magill family farm, many of whom were self-emancipated. He himself played a minor role, ferrying freedom seekers by wagon from Solbury to New Hope. In 1898, after he retired from Swarthmore, he wrote an account of the Underground Railroad in Bucks County based on recollections and family stories. In his memoir, Magill tells the story of Rachel Moore, who arrived with her 6 young children on a rainy evening. She was wearing what he describes as, quote, a coarse, heavy dress made of tow, woven in broken stripes of red an inch or more in width, unquote. Tow refers to a coarse fiber from flax or hemp. Wearing that coarse dress in the rain wore away at the traveler's skin, and Magill says they were bleeding and chafing with every step when they arrived. The clothing that they were wearing marked them as enslaved. Magill explains in his memoir that his family's farm was usually the next stop after Philadelphia, and, quote, usually the first on the line where southern clothing could be exchanged for northern, unquote. Upon changing, they would immediately burn the slave cloth to avoid detection. However, some slave cloth has survived, and the Friends Historical Library has a really neat fabric scrapbook that has some examples of slave cloth in it.
Let's proceed along to our next tour stop, Clothier Hall. Isaac H. Clothier is best known as a businessman, one of the partners behind the famous Philadelphia company. Maybe you've heard of it, Strawbridge and Clothier. Clothier was a major benefactor of Swarthmore College, serving on the committee to solicit funds for the proposed college in the 1860s, and sitting on the board of managers from 1873 until his death in 1921. As a young man of 23, in the year 1859, Isaac had some very direct and personal involvement with the right of free speech. Clothier had been the principal organizer of a short lecture series in Philadelphia on slavery and abolition, demurely titled Young Men's Liberal Course of Lectures. Picture the scene. December 1859, and tensions are heating up with the Civil War just around the corner. Many in Philadelphia blamed abolitionists for escalating the conflict. A lecture by George W. Curtis, a moderate Republican abolitionist, was scheduled for December 15th. Southern sympathizers circulated a handbill calling on people to set an example by punishing Curtis if he attempted to speak in Philadelphia. Clothier, Curtis, and other supporters were determined, declaring, if it takes the lives of all of us, we ought to go on. The threat was real. A large mob of people assembled in the street in front of the lecture hall. They threw stones through the window and attempted to set fire to the building. They were prevented from this only by the intervention of several hundred Philadelphia police, who were reportedly outnumbered 10-1. Free speech does not come cheaply. Just to add, Isaac's daughter Hannah followed in her father's activist footsteps. An alumna of Swarthmore, Hannah was a peace activist, serving on the American Friends Service Committee board for almost 20 years, and as an officer of the American branch of the Women's International League of Peace and Freedom for 15 years. Her papers are held by the Swarthmore College Peace Collection.
The effort to end slavery literally took generations. We'll now proceed to Parrish Hall and talk about many members of the Parrish family across time. Keep as your mental anchor the Swarthmoriest of the parishes, the namesake of this building. Of course, I am talking about Edward Parrish, Swarthmore's first president in the 1860s. His portrait currently hangs in Parrish Parlor East. We start in 1784, when Isaac Parrish, the grandfather of Edward Parrish, joined the Pennsylvania Abolition Society. The first anti-slavery organization in the United States, it had been established by a group of mostly Quakers less than a decade earlier. Dr. Joseph Parrish, Isaac's son and Edward's father, joined the Abolition Society in 1816 and served as its president for many years. Dr. Parrish was involved in the public side of the Underground Railroad. Here I'm talking about the Vigilance Committee, which provided public support and legal assistance for self-emancipated slaves and free blacks threatened with enslavement. Joseph was also involved with the secret side of the Underground Railroad. Dr. Parrish's several children, including Edward, quote, learned to keep quiet when a slave was harbored in the cellar, unquote. When Dr. Parrish died, apparently the funeral procession included a coterie of African Americans, filling 2 city blocks. Edward Parrish himself and his brother Dilwyn both also joined the Pennsylvania Abolition Society. Dilwyn served as its president for 30 years. You should also note that he was the neckbeardiest of the parishes.
Moving from Parish Parlor East to Parish Parlor West, you will find one of my favorite portraits. If you look closely and can read the little placard, you will discover that this is Isaac T. Hopper, and that he died in 1852. Which may make you wonder, what did he have to do with Swarthmore? The answer is, very little. But the founders admired him greatly, and this painting was done by a woman in the late 19th century, Theodora Thayer, so it's a good painting to have around anyway. So what's the deal with Friend Hopper? He arrived in Philadelphia in the 1780s at the age of 16, and was struck with the importance of helping enslaved African Americans very soon after. His biographer, Lydia Maria Child, estimated Isaac assisted 1,000 self-emancipated slaves during his 40 years of residence in Philadelphia. He was elected to membership with the Pennsylvania Abolition Society in 1796, and soon gained a reputation for devising cunning legal maneuvers to obtain freedom for colored people. Hopper also volunteered as an overseer at the Benesit School for Colored Children. Later, Hopper moved to New York, where he continued his anti-slavery activities. Isaac Hopper became book agent and treasurer of the American Anti-Slavery Society in 1840. He served on the executive committee, and contributed a column entitled Tales of Oppression to the Society's official publication, the National Anti-Slavery Standard. The young Frederick Douglass witnessed Isaac Hopper in action in a New York City courtroom in 1838 in a case involving a fugitive. Douglass was impressed, and later wrote that Hopper, quote, was the first white man I saw who led me to doubt my then well-established conviction that no white man could possibly possess a disinterested regard for the despised black man.